Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the witnesses for testifying before the Select Committee today. I want to also say that I'm a former director of the State Department of Health in Iowa, Public Health, and was vaccinated and gave vaccines in all 24 counties of my district. However, have never been for a vaccine mandate for COVID-19, both when I was distributing vaccines as well as today. Dr. Marks, COVID-19 remains somewhat of a public health challenge, especially given declining vaccination rates and growing vaccine hesitancy and fatigue. And let me say, as a public health director and as a state senator, vaccine hesitancy and fatigue is not new. This has been an issue, but it has been greatly enhanced through COVID-19 vaccine mandates. To optimize the effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines, I understand that the FDA has recommended periodic updates to vaccine composition. As we have seen with influenza, a clear framework for strain selection supports the timely availability of a diverse supply of COVID-19 vaccine platforms. I believe that multiple FDA-approved vaccine options can play a role in preserving consumer choice of products and ensuring equity of access, both of which can contribute to increased consumer acceptance and uptake of vaccines without forcing Americans to receive a specific option. Can you please speak to how the agency is taking steps to ensure vaccine manufacturers have the essential time needed to adapt their products accordingly and scale up production for vaccines for new virus variants?
Congress Miller-Meeks, thanks very much for that question. I would certainly agree with you that at FDA we take seriously the need to have choice among vaccines because that will allow a greater vaccination rate because we understand that some people may not feel comfortable with certain types of vaccines. They may want a more traditional vaccine rather than a newer vaccine. That's why we've been continuing to work with manufacturers to try to make sure that when we roll out the next update, we will have a diversity of choice, at least more than one type of vaccine that will be available. So you will see as we move into the spring, we will, as you've noted, go through a strain selection process. We're already having dialogue with manufacturers to help them get prepared because there's a lot of pre-work that they can do at risk to prepare for this so that we can hopefully have the choice that you're talking about.
Thank you. Dr. Grimes, as you know, COVID-19 vaccines are covered countermeasures under the Countermeasure Injury Compensation Program, CICP, which is overseen by HRSA instead of the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, VICP. With FDA being responsible for authorizing and approving the COVID vaccines and HRSA being responsible for adjudicating CICP claims for the COVID shots, I'm concerned that there's too much government involvement and overlap with COVID-19 vaccine claim adjudication. Furthermore, the CICP was not designed for a pandemic as large as the COVID-19 pandemic was, adding to the argument that VICP is the appropriate location to house the COVID-19 vaccine injuries in addition to the RSV and dengue vaccines which are already available. While I recognize that adding vaccines to VICP is through a 75-cent excise tax on pharmaceutical manufacturers, which would require congressional action, it nonetheless warrants attention by this select subcommittee. When a new vaccine is approved and marketed, what steps are required to ensure access to compensation under the VICP program, and what happens if a new vaccine is not added to the list of taxed vaccines?
Thank you for that question. So as you note, we have two programs that are administered through HRSA, the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program and the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program that are both in my division. With the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, it's a tripartite system, though, where we work with the Department of Justice and with the U.S. Court of Federal Claims to do separate duties to adjudicate the claims. For a vaccine to be covered under the CICP, 3 criteria must be met. One is the routine recommendation by the CDC for routine administration in children or individuals who are pregnant. The second is the excise tax imposed by Congress, as you note, and the third is a notice of coverage that the Secretary of HHS would add. For a dengue or RSV or COVID-19 vaccines to be added to the program, all of those would need to be met.
So, Dr. Grimes, what's the rate of denial for compensation for claims for COVID-19 vaccines and CICP?
So thank you. I don't have the rate, but we have adjudicated 2,214 claims today.
I think it's about 98%. And if I can just quickly follow up, I understand that there's a current backlog of claims in CICP by about more than 10,000. Why is there a backlog of claims for the COVID-19 vaccines?
Thank you for that question. So at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had not had a direct appropriation with the CICP. We also had only 4 staff. When we received our first direct appropriation in fiscal year 2022, we were able to ramp up quickly, and now we have over 35 staff who are assisting to adjudicate claims.
Thank you. My time's expired, but I'd like to submit some additional questions to be answered after the hearing.
So ordered.
Thank you very much.